Welcome everyone to the Grants and Opportunities for Pennsylvania's Creative Sector, brought to you by Pennsylvania Creative Industries, powered by Pennsylvania Council on the Arts. I do want to let you know that this Grants and Opportunities webinar is going to be recorded for the purpose of making it available to others who perhaps couldn't be available today to join. So by being on this meeting, you consent and understand that the meeting is being recorded. A couple other bits of housekeeping before we get right into the content. You should know that for the first part of this, you'll be muted and your video will be off. We are going to open the chat at the end so that we can collect questions that you may have, and we will do our best to respond to those questions that you may have about our grants and opportunities. So be on the lookout for that and save your questions as they come up through the presentation. I really am grateful that you're here, and thank you so much for joining us. Our Vice Chair, Ime Alaquiva, was not able to join virtually or in person, if you will, but he really wanted to welcome everyone to this meeting. So he is going to do so via a recorded video, and we're going to hear a welcome from Ime.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. I am honored to welcome you as the Vice Chair of the Pennsylvania Creative Industries, formerly known as the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts. I can't tell you how much my life has changed through the arts. Starting with hip hop, falling in love with De La Soul. They had a song called Me, Myself, and I, and growing up in Pittsburgh, oftentimes I felt like that because there weren't a lot of arts programs that are out here today. So to go from that to becoming the Vice Chair of the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts and Pennsylvania Creative Industries, which we are known now, just underscores what we really need to do when we come together and when we invest in the arts. So that's kind of what we're doing here. We're providing a resource for artists to be able to jump in, get this bag, if you will, so that we can go to newer heights to create more impact on all 67 counties across the state. And not necessarily just across the state, but how can we impact the globe and how can we impact the nation? So thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you immensely. We take this time to thank you all and really dive into the information and the resources that we have provided here and really create that bridge of connection when it comes to changing communities, changing our nation, and changing the world. I'm Ime Alaquiva. Thank you so much for being here.
Just a quick word about Pennsylvania Council on the Arts. That is the state's official state arts agency and our governing body. And our council recently adopted a new flagship brand, a way to talk about the work of the council, and that's Pennsylvania Creative Industries. And we have a quick video to kind of showcase our new flagship brand.
Pennsylvania's creative industries generate over $30 billion in economic impact and support nearly 190,000 jobs. From digital design to film production and gaming, indie studios and ambitious startups drive our creative economy and breathe life into communities across the Commonwealth. Here, history fuels innovation. Our stories echo through iconic cities and picturesque farmlands. We forge the physical world. Now we're shaping the digital one. Pennsylvania, where creativity powers progress. Build on history, designed for tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, Seth. We're really excited to have a very robust and engaging way to describe the powerful work of creative industries in Pennsylvania. And I think that also speaks to the perception and our opportunities nationally, and as our Vice Chair Ime was saying, even globally. So let's go on to the next slide. To give you an idea of creative industries, you can see it really covers the full range of creative and artistic activities. And you'll see examples there on the screen, includes all of that and more, all the ways that Pennsylvanians are working to create wonderful cultural products, artistic products, creative products, etc. A very inclusive look at creative industries. Okay, next slide. And in Pennsylvania, as you've probably heard from me before, or if not, certainly again today, it's very impactful for Pennsylvania. And our sector adds more than $30 billion to our economy each year. And as of the last date, information from the Bureau of Economic Analysis, about 189,000 Pennsylvanians are employed in that. And that adds up to a lot of compensation as well. Later in the presentation, we even have more recent data on that, which is good. Okay, next slide. So why the creative industries? And I think it's important to start with this point right up front, because of the power of the culture and what that means for us, for creatives, for artists, for our culture. That's why creative industries are important. And we're looking at an inclusive understanding of recognizing that cultural asset, but also what it means for our daily lives in our communities. This is a very important sector. We are trying to raise the visibility of that, even across sectors, with our sister state agencies, with both the public and private sector. So it's about raising that visibility. It's about connecting it with core work that's happening across Pennsylvania in areas like community development. What does this mean for arts workers in our economy? And ultimately, where I'm at is our sector is as important as other key Pennsylvania sectors, whether that's education or health or manufacturing. It is time for us to be in that conversation. And part of why we are moving in this direction is to ensure that every day we are more and more recognized and part of a conversation that puts our sector in its rightful place. Next slide. Just a little bit of background. Over the last 18 months or so, our council has undertaken planning process. We got around the state and did some focus group meetings regionally across the state. We surveyed those that had applied or were grantees to us. We actually, for the first time, got 19 other Pennsylvania state agencies to get together to talk about what our sector means and how it connects with a lot of their work. And we also looked at evolving policy trends from around the globe, whether that's other cities, other states, other countries, and increasingly, as I was mentioning earlier, public policy is really starting to grapple with the idea that, again, our sector has to be part of the conversation, and it's moving, and we need to invest in it and support it in a way that we don't leave any of the value and the benefit on the table. So we're looking at a much more robust public policy in this area. Next slide. I'm really pleased to talk about our new mission, which is about empowering, connecting, and amplifying creatives and creative industries in everything that they mean for our community's economy and workforce. So council's work is all rooted in this strategic mission. And as we go forward and talk about some of the grant opportunities and the work that you're going to hear from our staff members later in this meeting, you'll see how that all connects and comes together. Next slide. Just so you know, council will be really looking at the work of Pennsylvania creative industries in 5 areas. And I'll just briefly talk about those to give you an idea of what we mean. But asset development is really probably a lot of you. It is all those that are doing and making in the arts. Very key, important assets for our communities. and even those that are providing services that are supporting our sector. Those are all really important assets and mean a lot to our community. Workforce development is a newer area for us. We are recognizing opportunities for Pennsylvanian students, artists of all ages, to have awareness of what their creative skills can mean in terms of their future job, their work, their career development. So we'll be focusing on career awareness, skills, pathways to paid apprenticeships, and ultimately connecting our creative workforce with more and more opportunities for them to be involved in the creative workforce. What's exciting about this is, again, we're leveraging our relationships with other state agencies like the Pennsylvania Department of Education and the Department of Labor and Industry. Obviously, as I was mentioning earlier, our sector belongs in that conversation and should have access to those resources. Community development, this is a continuing area of priority for us, really authentically identifying all of our creative assets, making sure that they have opportunities to be part of the planning and implementation of community work up front, and really recognizing the power of that in shaping a community's creative future. You'll hear more from Sarah Merritt on that later. Visibility, this is something probably most of us in our sector have been talking about a long time. We know all the cool stuff that we are doing, all the assets that are in Pennsylvania, all the opportunity out there, but we're really focusing on our ability to promote all of that in the state, but even beyond that, nationally and internationally. We have world-class creative activity happening in Pennsylvania. And finally, policy. Again, if we start with the assumption that our sector really needs to be part of the conversation as other key sectors are, we can look at policies that strengthen the overall ecosystem in our state. And I really look forward to engaging with all of you as we look at possible policy moves that Pennsylvania could take to make our state even stronger and continue to build a strong cultural ecosystem. So next slide. With that, speaking of workforce, I'm going to turn this over to Jamie Dunlop to talk about a little work that we have done fairly recently that gives us a better understanding of our creative workforce and, frankly, potentially policy implications. So Jamie, take it away.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jamie Dunlap, and I am the Chief Strategy Officer here at Pennsylvania Creative Industries. And, pairing with what you just heard from Carl on our strategic planning process and things that we learned from that and how that has influenced those key areas we're going to be focusing on in our mission and vision and goals moving forward. We also did, over the course of about a year and a half, a study with Penn, University of Pennsylvania. And really the focus was, how can we understand Pennsylvania's creative workforce better? Looking at things like how many people work in creative professions, where are they located, speaking geographically, but also talking about where are these creative workers located within businesses and organizations. It could be that they are within a museum or a theater or a school, but they could also be in your local government as the videographer on staff, or they can be within a hospital structure and they are the graphic designer. So there's different places where we find these creative professionals all across the Commonwealth. And then how are they characterizing their work? Are they full-time, part-time, gig workers? Do they own their own business? And what can they have that would help them, or what could they have that could help them be more successful in their work as a creative in Pennsylvania? Next slide, please. And so from those questions, and again, this took about a year and a half working with University of Pennsylvania, Weitzman School of Design. And through that process, this is what we learned. And the next couple of slides highlight some of the key takeaways from this study. And one of the really interesting things that I found was that we are one of the largest creative workforces across the country, with over 245,000 Pennsylvanians working in creative jobs. Now, I want to just put a little note here that earlier in the presentation with Carl, you saw a number that was around 190,000 full-time employees, workers in the creative industries. And yes, that is certainly true, but there are 245,000 creative workers. So we're looking at the creative industries. And then, like I mentioned, it could be your local government, it could be your healthcare system that also have creative jobs. So that number's a little different, and it's larger here on this slide. The creative work, this is no surprise, though the work is concentrated in major metros, but honestly, it's widespread. There are creative workers all across the Commonwealth, whether you're in Elk County or you are in Allegheny County. There are creative workers all over the state, and they work in 50 different industries. So like I've been mentioning, it could be healthcare, it could be real estate, it could be government, it could be just your more traditional creative industries that you might think of. And they work in 40 different professional categories within those industries. Next slide, please. The other things that we learned are that creatives are enthusiastic about the work, and they feel that they're getting good support when it comes to their career development. However, access to finance and capital is something that they could use more of as far as becoming successful in Pennsylvania. And that's something that we hear often, whether it be for the for-profit, the worker, or the nonprofit sector, is that certainly access to capital, finance, resources is helpful. Compensation varies widely depending on a lot of things. It could be the self-employment status, if they own their own business, if they're a gig worker, demographics, all of those things come into play when looking at compensation. 45% of creatives, like I said, self-employed, having your own business is a huge part. It's 45% of creatives are self-employed in one facet or another. So they are wearing many hats. And that's probably no surprise to anyone that's on this meeting today. And then this last bullet, I think, is shocking, and it's something that we need to strategize on as an agency for the Commonwealth and with all of the creative workers across the Commonwealth. 1/5 of creatives are considering or have considered leaving Pennsylvania. And from the research, and you're going to see a QR code here in a minute, you'll see that migration. It's the rural kind of going to the more metro areas, and the metro areas leaving for other states. And that is certainly, a concerning stat for us. I think policy implications and maybe different legislation could be of value there. Certainly resources, developing out more resources, access to finance and capital, as was described. But that's something we definitely want to figure out, because we don't want creatives to leave Pennsylvania. We want them to be successful right here in the Commonwealth. Next slide, please. So that's all the things that it's the questions we asked, it's what we learned, and here are some strategic opportunities moving forward. And you're going to see some connection to some of the things that Carl just mentioned as far as our key areas. And you're also going to see some connection to what you're about to learn regarding our new programs and ongoing programs at Pennsylvania Creative Industries. We need to focus on workforce retention and competitive wages. What can we be doing to support our workforce so that they not only get their start here, but they want to stay here and can be successful here across the broad spectrum of the creative industries and the creative workforce. Support for professional network building. That is something, honestly, that we have heard through the nonprofit work that we've done, through our strategic planning process, and now also through the creative workforce study, is that support for professional network building and sharing is really important. So that's something we're looking at. Focus on supporting the self-employed. We have some programs already, and we're thinking through ways that we can develop those programs and maybe even offer more moving forward in that self-employed creative small business space. Growing the Pennsylvania tourism economy, super important, because we need to drive people to our main streets, to our cities, to these different communities, so that the creative small businesses that are within those areas can reap the benefits of having all that foot traffic in their community. So how can we help support the growth of Pennsylvania's tourism economy through all the amazing creative and cultural assets, things that are happening, the festivals, the experiences that we can have here in Pennsylvania, but also how can we be thinking about ways to strategize, pushing people to those downtowns to experience all the amazing communities that we have here in the Commonwealth and how the arts are a part of that. And then future-proof the creative workforce. We need to think about how technology is influencing the workforce. We need to think about policies and information and education, ways that we can be supporting that future-proofing of the workforce for years to come. So you're going to see these things that I've shared with you and the things that you just heard from Carl. There's going to be a through line through what you hear today and the programs that we're offering and the resources that we've developed. So I will pause there, and there's the QR code. Please go check out the whole study. My few slides here are just like the highlights, but honestly, there's a lot of really great data in that study. So feel free to peruse it, after the meeting, and let us know if you have any questions. And I'm going to kick it back to Carl, I think, to tee us up for our investment tools. So pass it back to you, Carl.
Yep. Thank you so much, Jamie. And now we want to give you a dive into different grant opportunities, funding opportunities, kind of our toolkit for strengthening our creative sector and our creative assets. So we're going to go through a range of our programs that offer different kinds of support, including operating support, project type support, access to capital type of support, community development. And we are very lucky to have our directors on the program, so they will be able to give that preview of our toolkit. So that's up next. So let's jump right into it and get started with our operating support grants. So next slide. And with this, I believe I am turning it over to Ian Rosario. Thanks, Ian.
Thank you, Carl. Like you mentioned, Ian Rosario, Director of Asset Development. With that, I'm going to start with the Asset Program, which targets arts organizations across Pennsylvania that provide arts activities and arts programs and have an average revenue size of $100,000 to $2 million. So what this is our general operating support category for what we have determined is a small to mid-sized organization. So that $100,000 to $2 million figure is what we would consider a small to mid-sized organization. Where you would fall within that, if you have any questions, will be determined by your filed 990. Moving on, the grant amounts between 10 and 15,000. I will say that is a projection. So while there is potential for 15, that could go below 10. So basically, if we get an abundance of eligible applicants in this program, that could go below the $10,000 figure, but not to exceed the 15. For anyone that's familiar with the agency, this is formerly our entry track and AOIP programs. And anyone that's familiar with AOIP, this program is very much in line with the application and the process. Now, I will say anyone who's not familiar or anyone who has kind of been spinning their wheels in entry track, this program is actually just dealing with absolutes. So what that means is there is not going to be a subjective review process here. What we do is we are just looking for the eligibility criteria. As always, I shouldn't say as always, as we have been doing, this is a reimbursement program. Before we move on, I will say we had just completed our initial round in this program. And while we have not done our formal council recommendations yet, we are very excited to announce that we will probably be funding approximately 200 organizations in this program, and there is room for more. Next. So here we have the Spotlight program, which targets arts organizations and arts programs across Pennsylvania that provide arts activities and arts programs and have an average revenue of $10,000 and under $100,000. Basically, this is our general operating support category for the small to smaller organizations. So much like Asset, we are providing general operating support here. For anyone unfamiliar, that's basically expenses that are going to go towards operating the organization or your business in that case. Grant amounts up to $5,000. I will say this one, like the Asset, just kind of how we've been running our general operating support category, this one will also be reimbursement based. For anyone who is interested in looking to apply, I would encourage anyone to reach out to me directly if you have any questions that may not be answered here today, or, you know, as long as we're before the application deadline, we can certainly touch on anything. Thank you.
All right, I'm up to bat. This is our new Innovation and Impact Grant. And you're going to get to hear from a lot of us on staff today about our new program. So like Ian said, if you have questions, we're going to have time at the end for Q&A. But if you have questions for us individually on programs, feel free to reach out. Innovation Impact is a brand new program. We just launched it this spring. And it's a very exciting program because it gives us an opportunity to support new, innovative, multi-year strategies, campaigns that really help drive that opportunity and investment for the creative industries. We are looking at things like possibly a new model or a new way of doing business for an organization. Say an organization wants to build out a workforce development arm of their work, and that's something that they need to develop over the course of those 2 to 3 years. This could be an opportunity for something like that. Could also be a grant program or a grant that could support things like a marketing and visibility campaign. And so I have an example of something that would be eligible in a category like this that we are currently funding through an RFP that we did last year, kind of testing out this idea of multi-year investments with marketing and visibility as a focus. We gave 2 grants out, and one of them was to a group in the Pittsburgh region for a collaborative campaign called Pittsburgh is Craft. So that's 3 organizations coming together, a Contemporary Craft, the Union Project, and the Pittsburgh Glass Center, all came together. They're in a very close proximity to each other. They have national recognition for the work that they do. And together they came up with this collaborative campaign, Pittsburgh is Craft. And they want to get people to come to Pittsburgh to experience all that is offered in the craft industry through their different organizations and events that they have. So they're taking the show on the road. They're going to go out to the Seattle Art Fair. They're taking Pittsburgh artists out there to give them this amazing international platform to share their work and for them to market this new campaign and promote everything that's happening in Pittsburgh. Then they're going to go to 3 different national conferences. They're going to talk about the campaign and what's happening in Pittsburgh at those conferences through being a vendor, possibly a presenter. And so something like that is solely visibility. It's not that they're new organizations, but this new campaign that they came up with together, that could be funded in a program like this. And these are going to be our largest grants. They are 100 to 150,000 in size. That is approximate. This is our first year doing it, so we're learning as we go. The rolling deadline right now is something that we have that might change moving forward. I will tell you in full disclosure, we got a lot of interest in this category. June 1st was the first deadline. We got a lot of applications. I think September 1st might be the end of the funds in this category for fiscal year 26-27, pending a budget, of course. We have enough to fund maybe 6 or 8 of these in an annual year, in an annual cycle. So If you are interested, the first step in this process is to reach out to me to just make sure your idea is eligible and meets the criteria of this program. Then we will open up the grant application for you, and you would apply in our electronic single application online grants portal, which is where all of the applications you're going to hear about today exist. So very exciting. It's an opportunity to support that dream, that big idea that an organization might have. And as the state coming in as an early investor, our hope is that you can take our funding and you can leverage other investments for this new idea, this new campaign. These are one-to-one matching grants, but we're hoping that our investment can help leverage some of those other dollars into the new initiative. So very excited about it. Reach out if you have questions. And I think I'm passing it to Sarah. So next slide, please.
Thank you, Jamie.
Sure.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sarah Merritt. I am the Director of Community Development for Pennsylvania Creative Industries. I'm really happy to be here today to talk to you about two of our signature programs. So the first one is the Creative Districts program, and I'd just like to start by saying we're already underway in the selection cycle for this pilot phase of the Creative Districts program. But if this is something that's new to you and you think it's something that your community could really benefit from and would be interested in pursuing, I would always welcome a conversation, so you can feel free to reach out to me and set up a time to talk. But I would say a great component of this program is the toolkit that has been developed that goes along with it. And I think it provides, it's free, it's accessible on our website. It's, guides communities through community asset mapping, through community action planning around a creative district program, developing governance and coordinating with your collaborators in this work. So yeah, there's some really great tools that exist. So if you're interested, take some time to look those over. And yeah, just feel free to reach out to me and we can discuss. But just to give you some high level components of this program, communities that are selected their district will be designated for 5 years. And then every 5 years that they can reapply for designation. In this initial phase, in the first 5 years of designation, right now, a community can receive up to $50,000 a year to support what they need to develop and grow the district. So whether that's working with the small business development, whether that's corridor beautification and public art, or community activities, or creative district management, we're very flexible in how communities leverage this funding to support their district program. So yeah, if you're interested and you'd like to talk more and learn more about it, please feel free to reach out to me. I know I haven't covered all of the particulars, but it all does exist on our website. And in an effort to make sure we can get to some Q&A, I'm going to move on, Seth, if you would, to the Creative Communities slide. So Creative Communities, I know a lot of you have heard about this program. It is very, very popular. And I frequently, probably, I'd like to say 4 to 5 times a week, have conversations with folks that are interested in the Creative Communities work. So Creative Communities is a multi-year grant that supports creative placemaking or creative placekeeping projects in communities. These projects must be place-based. They must be, working with partners. The grantees must work with partners in the community to plan and implement these projects. A community can receive $25,000 a year for the 4 years that they're in the Creative Communities program. And just to note that the key components of this program are that these projects are deeply rooted in community, and that you're really engaging with community. They're community driven, and that folks are involved in the projects from planning through implementation. Additionally, another key component of the program is the authentic inclusion of artists. And when I talk about it, authentically including artists, I might be preaching to the choir right now, but there might be some non-artists on this call. We want artists to be involved in this work from planning through implementation as well. There are a lot of really talented, excellent artists that have excellent community engagement skills that can really help you move the needle in this work. And we want artists to be paid for their work. You know, as an artist myself, I know there are a lot of artists on this call too. We want, our goal with Pennsylvania Creative Industries is to ensure that creatives can make a living off of their creative practice in the Commonwealth. So that's the second key component, authentic inclusion of artists. And then finally, just the strength of the community partnerships. This community development work does not happen in a vacuum or a silo. You have to be working across sectors and with a great group of partners to really move the needle and really move the needle. I'm sorry, I'm losing my words in this work. So, you know, this program does require a one-to-one match, but 50% of that match can be in kind. And it does require local government support. So your local government needs to match the grant by at least 10%. Again, that can be in cash or in kind as well. And they need to pledge that they're supporting this work through passing a local government resolution. This program is getting ready to open up this application. For those of you that are familiar with the old version of the program, I've eliminated the letter of interest. So it will be a direct application. You can find out all the information on our website, and the updated guidelines should be available sometime next week. They're just waiting for some legal approval, but I'm happy to have a conversation with you about any ideas you have or what you're thinking about or any questions you have about this program. So feel free, just like with the district's program, to reach out to me and we'll set up a time to talk. I think I've covered all of my, I guess one last thing I would say about Creative Communities is I'm opening the application on September 1st, and the deadline will be November 13th, Friday, November 13th. So hopefully that's a date that will stick in your brain because I didn't realize where it landed. But I think that's my spiel, and I will pass it on to my colleague, Seth Poppy.
Thanks, Sarah. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Seth Poppy. I'm Senior Director of Innovation and Visibility here, and I'm so excited to talk to you about the Creative Catalyst Grant Program. This is, I think, the sixth grant cycle we've had the Catalyst Grant, but my first year managing it, and I've had just some amazing conversations I can't wait to tell you about. Creative Catalyst is project-based support. It's for new initiatives and opportunities that advance the creative industry's goals. And I like to think of it as an early investment in a high-impact arts project. That's my little elevator pitch that I give to everyone that I meet with about the Catalyst Grant. And I think it really speaks to what we're trying to do with the program. This is project-based support. It's not ongoing support. It's not operating support for new projects, events, and initiatives that have a statewide or broad regional impact. So, we speak to artists and organizations from all over the state. Organizations of any size. There's no size eligibility requirement in Creative Catalyst, and it's anticipated grant amounts are up to $25,000. And it's a rolling application. I just closed the first round last month, and we'll have another round coming up in September. Similar to kind of what Jamie was saying about innovation and impact grant, the Catalyst Grant is very popular and could potentially run out of funds before the end of the year. I think the best way to really understand what a Catalyst Grant is, because there's so many different kinds of projects you can have in this program, or some examples. So these are just two that I think are really great. Next Stage PA is a brand new paid artist development program from the Chamber Foundation of the Greater Lehigh Valley Chamber. It's designed to take emerging bands, musicians, singer-songwriter, any kind of musician from local stage to tour-ready professionals. So selected artists applied, and then they will gain hands-on touring experience. They perform, they go on a tour at premier venues across Pennsylvania, receive marketing, branding support, tech rehearsals, have professional development sessions. the experience of having a professional management organization working with you. So, it's really about supporting artist development, but also helps build lasting industry connections statewide. So that's one example of a creative catalyst. Another one is the Imagine X from Northeastern Educational Intermediate Unit in Lackawanna County. Imagine X is an immersive event for middle school students. So middle school students, middle school teachers and counselors all convened. They explored the future of creative industries, how artistic skills translate into real in-demand career paths. They met with international musicians that are Grammy Award winners, actors from film, television, Broadway, published poets and writers, architecture, design firms, even a wildlife photographer, among others. So it really gave the students an opportunity to see, like, what are the opportunities, what are the possibilities for their future in the creative world. So I welcome any questions or proposals you may have. If you're interested in a Creative Catalyst grant, please reach out. I love having these conversations. So I think that's it for me. And now I will pass it on to Amanda.
Hello, thanks, Seth. All right, hi everyone. Amanda Lovell, Senior Director of Workforce and Business Development. Can't see your faces right now, but I'm sure there's a lot of familiar faces out there. So it's really nice to connect with you all, and I'm so glad you're able to join us today. I'm going to be rounding out the last two tools in our toolkit. And these are both tools that are really centered around our for-profit creative entrepreneurs throughout the state. And as Jamie mentioned from the Penn study, we discovered that 45% of creative workers in the state of Pennsylvania are self-employed. So these programs really are in alignment with that data, which is very exciting. This program has been, relevant and strong and amazing for the past 6 years now. And we've just heard so much positive feedback about the impact that this program has had on creative entrepreneurs throughout our state. So in the initial stages, which the past 6 years, we've funded about $3 million in grants to about 1,600 creative entrepreneurs throughout the state of Pennsylvania who are in the very beginning stages of starting their business or just starting to take off with their creative businesses. So that's really exciting to have been part of their entrepreneurship journey. So we are continuing forward with this program, and this program, what it does is it combines not only grant resources and the amount of funding, but it also provides business planning resources. And as we move forward into the next stage of this program, we are anticipating the launch to be in the fall of 2026. We are updating the model slightly, so there is going to be increased funding amounts that you will see. There'll be 2 tiers of increased funding amounts. We are going to be focusing on entrepreneurs who are in that earlier to middle stages of their business. Again, we focused very strongly on those very new entrepreneurs in the first 6 years of this program. So moving forward, we're going to be focusing on entrepreneurs who are sustaining their businesses and continuing to move through that entrepreneurship journey in the middle stage of their business development. So again, 2 tiers of funding, increased funding amounts. It's going to be a cohort model of learning and sharing. Again, back to that Penn study, we saw that, that opportunity for networking and to have creatives and business owners speaking to one another is really important. So this program is going to embody that and is going to offer an opportunity for increased networking opportunity and sharing of business planning resources. So a little bit more in depth on that aspect. And we've just heard overwhelmingly from our creatives that have received this grant funding that the funding is fabulous. Of course it is. But more so than the funding, the opportunity for access to additional business planning resources that many entrepreneurs never knew they had access to has been really pivotal in their business development. We are going to be moving to a model with one statewide administrator. We are very excited to be working with Bridgeway Capital. Again, this will be starting in fall of 2026. And if you would like more information, you can sign up, put your email. There's a QR code there that you can access. And this is going to take you to the new Keystone Creatives landing page. And at the very bottom of that page, you'll be able to input your email address to get on the mailing list to receive updates about this program as we launch, or we anticipate the launch in fall of 2026. So definitely more to come on that. Please feel free to reach out to me directly for any questions that you might have. And if you are on this call and you have received this grant before, please note that the updated version of the program, you will be able to reapply. So that is something I wanted to make sure that was clear. Next slide. So this is the Business Loan Fund. Again, part of that portfolio of our toolkit that really hones in on resources and funding for entrepreneurs. And just to clarify, this is a loan fund, different than a grant fund, which is what the Creative Entrepreneur Accelerator program is. This is a loan. Through this program, which currently, as of now, operates on the pretty much entire western side of the state, in addition to Lehigh County, Northampton County. So Bridgeway Capital actually is overseeing the western side of the state, and we have Rising Tide Community Loan Fund in Lehigh and Northampton County. We are looking, just so you know, so if you don't see yourself in that in any of those counties of coverage, we are looking to expand that coverage, so more to come on that. But this is basically us working to leverage our funds for creative entrepreneurs throughout the state. We do work with creative, I'm not sure if you're familiar with community development financial institutions, or more commonly known as CDFIs. But a CDFI is a community development financial institution designation given by the U.S. Department of Treasury to mission-driven financial institutions that serve low-income communities as well as people with limited access to financing. So again, we do find that many of our creative entrepreneurs may not have had success in some of the more traditional lending models that are out there. And so working with CDFIs has been wonderful, because we're really finding that our entrepreneurs are able to gain access to resources that they have not been able to gain access to prior. And just to give an example really quick, so to kind of show you how maybe the CEA program and the Business Loan Fund can work hand in hand to kind of really support entrepreneurs on different parts of their entrepreneurship journey. There are a few examples of this, but one that I'll give you is of a teaching artist that was based in Erie. Always wanted to, as much as she loved teaching, really wanted to focus full-time on her creative practice. And so she did apply and receive funding through the CEA program, was able to access business planning tools through that, networking tools. From there, she was able to then get her business to a point where she could apply for the Business Loan Fund, which she did do that. She used that funding to actually have or create working capital. She was able to take her work to galleries and shows, throughout, like I believe, like the East Coast, and has since been able to move on to practicing what she wanted to do full time. So that is just one example, honestly, of many that we have of creative entrepreneurs really tapping into both resources for their entrepreneurship journey. So again, two really fantastic resources available. I'm more than happy to discuss any and all. You can also go to our website for more information on either one of them. And I believe that rounds out our toolkit, but I'm going to pass it back to Carl.
Yeah, thank you so much to all of our presenters and the staff. Please know that they are here for you to answer questions, to help you navigate things. So I do encourage you, as you consider things, feel free to reach out and know that we're available. So we're going to open up the chat because we have a few minutes for questions here, and we'll try to address some of these. But again, with the understanding that we're here for you and excited to help you navigate, give you any information that you need as you look at some of these funding opportunities. So I believe we have opened up the chat, and let's
I can
see.
say one of the things I just saw, Carl, is, and I think you just mentioned this, but just to make sure everyone knows, by clicking on that QR code, you get to the contact us page on our website with all of our emails and contact information from everyone you heard from today. So, feel free to reach out to any of us about our programs.
Yeah, and I know staff here monitoring this too. I see a couple questions which I'll try to get, and we'll kind of monitor these as we go forward. One question is, can you apply for multiple opportunities? There are opportunities to do that, speaking of opportunities. So for example, if you are an organization that is receiving a general operating support grant through, let's say, asset program, or in the future Spotlight, yes, for example, you may have a Catalyst project that you'd like to talk to Seth about. So there are ways in which there may be more than one opportunity if that's what your opportunity has. Another question I saw was about, I think, individuals. And I think one of the ways that we have really been successful in reaching individual artists is actually through the Creative Entrepreneur Program. That's just one example in which a lot of these aspiring business owners or operators are basically individuals. And we've had, as Amanda was saying, just really unprecedented reach out to individual artists in that way. And as I've answered a couple of these, staff, do you see any other?
I think it would, yeah, Carl, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. There have been a couple questions about fiscal sponsorships, about eligibility, and what programs that is.
And staff jump in, but for example, Ian was talking about the Spotlight program up front. That's an operating grant. That's a program where organizations that aren't tax exempt, for example, or incorporated as a nonprofit could apply through a fiscal sponsor. Amanda, I saw one here. I'm going to kick it to you. In terms of the accelerator program, do you have to be an LLC?
That's a fantastic question. Thank you for asking that. In the because we are focusing on that mid-tier moving forward for this next part of the cycle, you will have to be in business for 1 year and registered as an LLC or other. So I can definitely give you more information about that if you reach out, but definitely go onto that Keystone Creatives page as well, because they'll definitely be sending updated guidelines and things as updates continue to roll out. But great question.
We have a question.
Go ahead.
Well, just like a couple questions about, if I am in creative communities or if I'm in a different program, like what programs am I still eligible for or not eligible for because of receiving an existing grant?
Yeah, really, really good question. So let's dig down on this specific one. So let's say you are a recipient and you're in the Creative Communities program. It may be that you would also be eligible for an operating grant. Let's say you're an arts organization or an arts program. So you could be a participant in the Creative Communities and an operating grant. So that's an example where two programs would be available. What we do say is if there's multiple applications in process, of course, we wouldn't be funding the exact same thing with, let's say, 2 programs. But in the case of the creative communities, that's very specific community development projects, whereas the operating is really about supporting generally an arts organization or arts program. With the last minute here, any other kind of frequently asked questions that I'm missing?
I mean, Carl, I see one for Asset. Asset program closes on March 16th, opens on February 2nd, closes on March 16th. To the individual that was ineligible because of the Flex Fund, that was basically a situation of timing. There would have been a double dipping if that was allowed. So once the Flex Fund has now expired, ceased, it appears, yes, you would probably be eligible for Asset, which opens February 2nd.
Okay.
Two other quick things, Carl. Sorry, I just want to say that I think that you all saw it in the chat, but in case you didn't, we are going to be sending out the slide deck to all of you after today's meeting. I'm also going to put in the chat, just to make sure you have the link that works, our staff link. I think someone said that a link wasn't working. I think that is the link you were referring to. So I just checked it, and what I just put in the chat links to all of the staff information and all of our contact info. So hopefully you can get to us through there.
Yeah, I guess one thing I would say is I see a couple of creative communities questions in this chat. Since we're like nearing the end, feel free to reach out to me with those questions, folks, and I'm happy to answer them.
Same thing for anybody who's an individual artist. I see 2 questions specific to that. They're a little lengthy for me to answer right here in the chat, but if you'd like to email me specifically or directly, I'd be more than happy to help you. And then just one last one that I think might be for the good of everyone. It says, if an organizational budget size is not specified, does that mean that all organizations are eligible to apply? So that's a fantastic question. And yes, our Innovation and Impact Grant, as well as our Creative Catalyst Grant, you're going to find that there's not an organizational budget size specified on that. So you may apply to both of those regardless of your budget size. But where they are specified, that you must adhere to the specifications of that. But that is a great question.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Carl, there's quite a bit of operational questions here. I mean, I can definitely stay and just kind of tick through these if we're almost done here.
Yeah, so yeah, to be mindful of people's schedules, I do encourage, for example, if you're thinking about which operating support program, which project support program could be the best fit for you for operational type support grants, I would definitely contact Ian. For community work, contact Sarah Merritt. For innovation type projects, Jamie Dunlop. Obviously, we met Seth earlier for catalyst projects, and for entrepreneurship and access to capital, Amanda Lovell there. So we're at the point in the meeting where we had a lot of great attendees, and thank you so much for coming. And I think it's great that you got to see our programs and our staff and at least make a connection. And I think what we'll see is some really good follow-up and probably some more specific conversations around your specific case and scenario. But thank you so much for attending. We will be making these slides available, and of course are available to you at any time for more in-depth discussions. One thing I did want to let you know is that if you go to our website and scan there, there is, of course, information about our programs, but there's also resource information for other types of state grants that oftentimes members of the cultural community and the creative community can apply for and take advantage of. So there's information there as well that we hope you'll check out. And we're happy to make referrals there in terms of other state agencies. And of course, we're very excited about this. We have, as you heard today, received applications in many of these programs, and we look forward to being able to notify people of that. We'll have an upcoming council meeting scheduled probably in pretty short order, in which council will consider those applications, and we look forward to working with you and notifying you if you have already submitted an application. And if you did, that's great, and we're excited for you. Again, thanks to all our attendees, and we look forward to seeing you in your community because we are out and about quite a bit, and wish you a very good afternoon. Thanks, everyone.